are living in what you could call a cognitive emergency. I mean, if you're listening to this, you have access to just limitless information. But our ability to really think in a structured way, to find that signal in all the noise, that's become incredibly scarce.
It's a total paradox, isn't it? We're drowning in data, but absolutely starved for wisdom. And when you add in, the sheer speed of tech and the fact that AI reasoning is getting more and more opaque.
Yeah, the black box.
Exactly. You realize the crisis isn't just about overload. It's a crisis of clarity, of structure.
Absolutely. So how do we find wisdom in all that chaos? Well, our deep dive today is going to explore a really audacious answer. We're looking at the massive ambition of Dr. Rod King, and it's all captured in his BHAG, his big, hairy, audacious goal.
And this is so much more than a mission statement. It really is a blueprint. The goal is, I'm quoting here, to establish fractal gridding as the global visual operating system for thinking, learning, and ethical AI collaboration.
Okay, the key phrase there has to be operating, Donna.
It is. It's a vision to fundamentally rewrite how we organize our thoughts.
That is enormous. So before we get into the weeds, let's give everyone a really clear anchor. What's the simplest analogy to grab onto here?
The best way to think about it is this. Fractal gridding is like a spreadsheet for thought plus a zoomable ontology.
Okay, I get the spreadsheet part. We use them for numbers. They bring order.
Right. So this system does the exact same thing, but for ideas, for strategies. It brings that kind of analytical power to concepts, not just finances.
But a spreadsheet is flat, it's rigid. You can't just, click on a cell and find a whole nested universe inside it. I guess that's where the zoomable ontology part comes in.
Precisely. The ontology is the logic, the physics of how ideas connect. And the zoomable part means you can go from that 30,000-foot strategic vision,
The big picture.
and then seamlessly zoom all the way down, level by level, into one single granular assumption that a whole project rests on. And you never lose context. The structure holds at every single level.
So it's like an interactive architectural model for your thinking. I like that. Okay, let's dig into the mechanics. We've had frameworks for decades. Systems thinking, second brain, design thinking. Why aren't they enough for what's being called the human AI epoch?
Well, those frameworks are powerful, no doubt, but they weren't built for the pressures of right now, the speed, the scale, and, like you said, the algorithmic opacity. Systems thinking can be too abstract.
And second brain can sometimes just be, well, a fancy way of hoarding notes.
Right. Great for collecting, but not always for synthesizing. Fractal gridding is positioned as what they call a category of one leadership system, a cool system. It's engineered to bring that structural integrity we talked about. It's not just recording ideas, it's about architecting your understanding.
So how does it actually work as an operating system? What are the layers that make it more than just a mind map on steroids?
It's built on 3 integrated layers. The first is the ontology. Think of it as the rulebook, the physics. It's what ensures that as your ideas get more complex, they don't just collapse into a mess. It defines how things relate logically.
Okay, but that sounds a little rigid. Doesn't forcing your thoughts into a strict framework kind of kill creativity, that messy spark of genius moment?
That's a great question, and it leads straight to the second layer, the interface. The visual grammar of the system is a 3x3 grid, and its purpose is sort of paradoxical. By limiting you to 9 cells on any one level, it forces you to be an essentialist.
Ah, so the constraint actually creates the clarity.
It's all about reducing the cognitive load. You're forced to distill. And then the third layer is the experience. The ultimate goal here isn't just to be more organized. It's to find what they call liberation from cognitive clutter, to get into a state of flow where you're not fighting the complexity anymore.
And that clarity is the bridge to collaboration, which I think is where this gets really interesting. The idea of it being a visual lingua franca, a common language, especially for humans and AI.
This is one of the most powerful parts. Think about how much time we waste in meetings just because we're using ambiguous words. The grid is designed to cut through that noise across 3 key pathways. The first is just humans. Humans.
Because everyone is literally looking at the same map of the problem. You can't really argue about the structure when it's right there in front of you.
Exactly. It moves you from abstract arguments to, okay, let's fix this box right here. But then you get to humans AI. Right now, we sort of, shout a question into the void and the AI spits back a novel.
And then it's our job to make sense of that wall of text.
With this, you structure your question in the grid, and the AI returns its answer inside that same structure. It turns the AI from an oracle into a partner. Its reasoning is contained, it's understandable.
That's huge.
Yeah.
But the third pathway, AI, That feels like it's straight out of science fiction. The explainability layer.
This hits the big trust problem. If one AI model makes a recommendation, another can use the same grid structure to audit its logic. They can literally show their work to each other and then report back to a human in a way we can actually understand. It's accountability by design.
So what does the actual product look like? How do you use this?
It's all embodied in the Fractal Grid Notebook, the FGN. And the philosophy behind the AI in it is key. It's an assistant, a pattern amplifier, not a replacement. It works with you inside the structure you create.
So the human is always in the driver's seat. The AI is contained, explainable, and ethical inside the grid.
Exactly. And it's modular. There are plans for an app store with plugins for everything from, say, research analysis to building a curriculum, all using that same core logic.
Speaking of ethical, let's shift to that. It's maybe the most critical challenge we have, building morality into our tech before things get automated. This idea of moral foresight.
And this is where that rigidity we talked about becomes a huge ethical advantage. They built a specific tool, the Ethical Decision-Making Grid, or EDM grid. It takes ethics from a vague philosophical chat to a systematic, repeatable process. It gives you ethical scaffolding.
So in AI governance, what does that actually look like? What does it force you to do?
Well, first, it helps with exposing AI fallacies. The grid forces you to break down an algorithm's logic, to ask the hard questions. Whose data is this trained on? What is it really optimizing for? You're systematically interrogating the black box.
Making the hidden assumptions visible.
Yes. And second, because of that zoomable structure, it's amazing at mapping unintended consequences. You are forced to map out the second and third order effects of a decision across different stakeholders, different timelines. It's almost like an ethical time machine.
You get to see the ripple effects before you even make the first move.
Yeah.
The goal being, as the source material says, that human wisdom guides automated power.
The ultimate goal is to get to a point where you are invited into rooms before decisions are automated, so that the human structured thinking provides the necessary checks and balances.
Which makes perfect sense of their keynote theme for this pillar. Philosophy eats AI. It's about putting first principles first.
Absolutely. Capability without wisdom is just, well, it's dangerous.
Okay, so this is a massive vision. Let's talk about execution. How do you actually make something like this happen? Let's get into the BHAG game system.
The game framework is the engine. It's designed to make this all feel structurally inevitable by focusing on really clear, measurable outcomes.
So G, goal architecture. What's the success metric there?
G is for goal architecture. The benchmark is simple. Can everyone on the team explain fractal gridding compellingly in under 60 seconds? If you can't distill your own structure, you haven't really built it yet.
I like that. It forces clarity. Okay, an A for achievement is about that category of one positioning.
Correct. The goal is to just exit the competition. Success is when people stop asking what you compare to, because there is no comparison. It's foundational.
And the E for experience, that's the real-world proof.
That's the user outcome. And the key phrase they're aiming for is when people just start saying, "Show me your grid." When that becomes the default for explaining a complex idea, you've won. It means trust.
I want to make sure we touch on the global impact pillar. This isn't just for Silicon Valley boardrooms. There's a huge equity piece here.
A massive one. The mission is to provide cognitive infrastructure, not just ed tech. It's about achieving cognitive equity. Because if these powerful thinking tools only go to people who are already well-resourced,
The gap just gets wider.
it widens dramatically. The strategy is to roll out pilot programs in Africa, the Caribbean, and the diaspora, contributing to what they call Pan-African inclusive leadership, giving leaders and students these tools to accelerate high-level problem solving.
Let's end on the personal philosophy behind all this. Balanced greatness seems almost counterintuitive for such a huge goal. This idea of less hustle, more structural leverage.
It's the only way it's sustainable. You can't hustle your way to a BHAG, you'll burn out. Structural leverage is about using the right framework to get huge results without all the wasted effort. It's about integrating that intellectual rigor with creative play, ethical grounding, and a sense of spiritual calm.
So it's about being a calm, fractal node in a noisy world, making sure the work is not just impactful, but sustainable and, even joyful.
Joy is the fuel. Exactly.
So to pull this all together, fractal gridding is this deep blueprint for a new cognitive OS. It's about finding clarity through structure, enabling real human-AI teamwork, and maybe most importantly, baking ethical wisdom into our thinking from the start.
It's an architectural response to the cognitive emergency. And you can see the change in people who use it. They say it best. I don't just take notes anymore. I think fractally.
And that vision, that structure, that's why Dr. Rod King is really becoming known as the architect of visual thinking for the AI age.
It's a title he's earning, for sure.
So we'll leave you with this final thought. If this whole system is really designed to give you liberation from cognitive clutter, think about this. What's that one crucial decision in your work or your life that's just buried in complexity right now? What could you finally map out and solve if you actually had a zoomable operating system for your own thoughts? What would that first grid even look like?